Welcome to the Shit Creek Survivor Show, where we one openly discuss our personal stories of getting stuck up shit creek without a paddle, the good, the bad, and the embarrassing. Two, most importantly, celebrate and share how we got out of shit creek and got our lives moving in the right direction again. For those not familiar with the term stuck up shit creek without a paddle, it refers to situations, places, circumstances, and times where we ended up in a place in life that we never thought, believed, or imagined we could possibly be. And when we got there, we did not believe we would get out. But somehow we did, and we got moving in the right direction. And this is where we share those stories so that others can benefit from them. Okay. The show is created to combat the belief that we live in this everything is perfect social media fake world where people act like everything has, is, and always will be perfect. It's not. I'm joined by my friend and former police patrol partner, Dennis Kaufman. How you doing today, Dennis?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. How you doing?
I am good. Just got back from Turkey Day week, and Thursday being delicious. I ate as much food as I could. I was in St. Louis, Missouri. What'd you do?
Went down to Rockport to visit my mom, some family down there.
Yeah, do you have good
So
weather?
we were down on the beach. You know, Rockport, Texas is by Corpus Christi, so we were all the way down on the coast. So yeah, salt water. Got a little colder right before we left, and as soon as we got back to St. Louis, it started to snow. So up and down with the weather, and it's knocked down the immune system a little bit probably, but all good after that.
Perfect.
Good food,
So
good
in the
time, all that
good,
stuff.
good. What do you think of my mustache?
I was gonna make a couple of cracks at it there, but I hadn't yet, so I don't know.
It's because it's so powerful. You're
It is
worried.
power. I mean, you got a Tom Selleck thing going on right there.
I hope I can live up to that. In the last episode, we discussed the year following me being shot and waking up from 5 week coma that followed being shot in the face 1 year earlier. What am I trying to say? So I got shot, and then 1 year later, I ended up on that exact same anniversary in a 5 week coma. We discussed my struggles with PTSD, me getting sober, working with my therapist to get sober after I relapsed slash picking the creature back up. I was starting to lose weight. I was working on my fitness and opening myself and turning to God, kind of with the attitude, if I turn towards you, God, please be there. I'm taking a leap of faith. I need help. I can't make it on my own. Please be there. And in that process, I ended up turning over a lot of stones in my life, trying to find what was causing the pain in my life. Was it just PTSD? Was it being shot? Where was all this pain coming from? I had removed the alcohol, the weight, I had physically transformed. I'd lost weight. I'm feeling better. I'm on my medication. I'm meditating. But I still don't feel good. My mental health was just not right. And what's the problem with mental health is when you are going through a mental health crisis, you don't really understand what is going on or that it's even happening. And the reason being is you're literally stuck inside the broken machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's you're so used to your whole life being able to trust yourself and your emotional regulations being on point. You learn this from the point you're born, and all of a sudden it feels like you're getting danger signs everywhere you go, and the machine's telling you there's danger ahead, but there's really not, and you're feeling fear that's actually not present, but it's the reality of what's going on. That's the struggle, and the problem is, to an outsider's, you can't see it. This
Right.
person is, yeah, this person is struggling while they're going through a mental crisis. And you think you could fix it just by looking at them and being like, well, just, lose some weight like I did, or,
Yeah.
get on the meds and you'll be fine.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, stop thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, find a hobby, and you're like, oh, okay. And you literally do all those things, even though you know that person doesn't know what they're talking about because you've heard 10 people tell you 10 other things. But you do it anyways out of desperation. And I kept like looking for the key. Where's the key? Where's the stone? Where's the stone that's covering the key to release me from all this pain? And last time we talked, I talked about the things I worked on first, and I just mentioned them. But it turned out those were all physical things, and I had been avoiding spiritual things. So I've been asking myself why. Why would I wait to ask God for help? Why wouldn't I do that straight out of the gates? And
Are you not desperate
as
enough?
it's that, and I'm pretty stubborn by
Yeah.
nature. But the truth
And we're
is,
tough men. We don't ask for help.
yeah, I guess so. But I really thought I could like pull it out. I really thought I could like do it, and that with a lot of like time, it would just kind of go away. And if I just continued to try to do the right things, it would get better. But it just like I was still in pain. But I had this,
Well, you ended coming out of the last podcast. You kind of ended the coming out of the coma,
yeah,
and then feeling like you all the pain had released. And then when you came back into this realm, into this world, and that's when all the pain kind of came back to the doubts, the suffering. And so you could almost say that you were away from this earth for a second and away from all the pain, and you're only experiencing the good parts. And then you came back and you felt it all again. And that's probably more confusing too.
yeah. And wouldn't it seem more attractive to go back to that place than stay
Absolutely. I
here?
mean, doesn't it feel like that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think
So
about
that's
that
a
for a while?
yeah, that's a struggle. I mean that will still come up in my mind sometimes when things are bad, but I don't believe anymore that that's me wanting to quit. I believe it's me being overwhelmed in the moment. So I just got to get through the moment. We haven't talked about this yet, but suicide rates for first responders and military personnel are high. They say it's 22 a day, maybe more, maybe a little less, whatever it is combined. And these are individuals who were not quitters at all. These were people who had put themselves through physical, emotional, and spiritual pain just through basic training, just through stepping out there and wanting to serve their country, right? These are tough people. These are a frontline people, A plus people. And the fact that these individuals, after serving, are coming back and believing that they don't have any worth is absolutely tragic.
Yeah,
And
I think it comes down to seeing the instant gratification. When you see somebody that you've helped on the side of the road from an accident, a kid crying trying to find their mom, even worse, go into domestics and even worse from that. When you bring some level of comfort to somebody going through a very traumatic experience, you get a sense of purpose and you get a sense of actually helping somebody and you get to see it right then and there. Even if you don't see
yeah,
it right then and there, you know the next day you're going to get a chance to help somebody again. The next day you're going to get to help somebody again. And now that's kind of been removed. We're not doing that anymore.
well
Uh,
said.
but, but now we're finding reasons to still kind of get that help to help people. And we're doing something like this. We probably do it when you're talking to somebody at the gas station or somebody you know a little bit better than just a stranger. You'll start talking about it in a way to help them. And you'll see some of that instant gratification right away too. And you'll see that you're being helpful to somebody. I think the one difference with this is we're not releasing until we're done with them all. And then we'll get to see some of the feedback. But it feels good to say these things as well because we know these are things we haven't said enough in our life, that we do make mistakes, some big ones. We do need help sometimes, a lot of it, and it's all okay. And
Yeah.
there is a better solution out of here than just being miserable, depressed, and think that the world's against you. You can go out of your comfort zone. You can embrace love, a loving spirit, a loving attitude, and you can pass it on to people just by smiling at them at the grocery store.
Yeah. Well said. It all matters. Sometimes you can lose
A little
focus
ramble
on.
there, sorry.
No, yeah, it totally matters. And it's just shocking that when people feel that, they have no more purpose, that they would, I'll probably edit this second out, but it's just shocking when a person believes that they no longer have any worth here on this earth. And it's also they're in so much pain that they would rather not be here than continue with the pain. And what I was trying
Right.
to say with that last one is like these people were never quitters. These weren't like, the people that you would assume would quit in life. They're like top tier individuals who went out, served their country, put themselves in harm's way, physically they thought, but mentally it really messed with them. And then now they're home and they're trying to figure out why they're in so much pain. They can't see it. No one else around them can see it. And they're just like, you know what? I think I'd rather just not be here. I probably wouldn't be a problem to everybody. And you start like backing it up with rationalizations like my family would do better without me, or, like I don't want to be a burden, or maybe I should just run away or something like that. But it gets kind of crazy. So I had been focusing on all my physical stuff, but I had been avoiding spiritual stuff like we talked about last time. And I've really taken some time to think about that. Why? Why would I avoid asking for help from a higher power and try to take care of everything on my own? And I believe it's because I believe pride was involved. I believe my ego was in there. I believe that I was embarrassed. And I believe that if I could get everything back on track without having to ask God for help, that I
Somehow
could
it makes it
prove to
more
God that I
real.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, that I could prove to God I was strong, that I could do it. And it's pretty complicated because I remember being in my basement again. I'm crying. I'm asking, what is going on here? I'm at my wit's end. I'm thinking about what it would be like, how it would be better without me on Earth. And all of a sudden, this memory, boom, flashes before my eyes. As I'm crying, God, why is this pain continuing? And it's a memory from being about 4.5 to 5 years old. We lived in Curacao, which was an island off the coast of Venezuela. It's part of the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. And my dad was stationed there. He worked for the government. And so while we were there, I made a friend. Turns out he was also from the United States. So we hung out a little bit. And when I was over at his house one day, he asked me, "Hey, my mom's boyfriend taught me an adult game. Would you like to learn?" I was like, okay, I'm 5 years old. I don't know what that means. All I know is I want to be like my dad
Yeah.
and I want to do the adult things that he does. So if this means I get like a glimpse into that world, great. And what that meant was we proceeded to get naked and he did things to me and then he had me do those things to him. Now, when you're young and you're being taught an adult game, to anyone out there who's ever experienced that and might be suffering in silence, it's confusing because it feels good. And we continued to do this, I would say, for about 6 months. And I came to his house one day, um, thought we were going to play the game again. And he was visual, like I could tell he was upset, but he was like silent. And I was asking him, I was like, what's going on? And he eventually told me that his mom's boyfriend, who he had been playing the adult game with, had found out that my dad was a DEA agent, so a police officer. And what that individual decided to do was tell a 5 year old, my friend, that what he had done was gross, shameful, and wrong. He was told that his mom, if she found out, wouldn't love him. He was told that God saw him as a sinner and that we had done wrong and we needed to be quiet about it. He also told my friend the exact same things for me, that my parents wouldn't love me anymore if they found out what we had done, that God wouldn't love me, that God knows I'm a sinner now, and that my family would potentially get rid of me if they found out what was going on. And my whole world in that moment fell apart because
Yeah.
the only things you believe in with all your heart when you're 5 years old is your parents' love, God's eternal love, and Santa Claus. And because you got to be a good boy to get the presents from Santa Claus. And I thought I had lost all three. Right in that moment, I had thought I had lost all three, and
This has
I
been
didn't
repressed all
believe
these
my.
years? Or do you remember thinking of this before ever?
I had thought about it before in my life, and yeah, it had kind of popped up. And what had happened when I was told that I was bad and I was shameful and that I was gross, is I decided right then and there, okay, God, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be a good boy for the rest of my life, and I'll do that, and maybe I can earn my way back into your favor or earn my way back into heaven.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Um, and so I tried to do that, and And my, just so you know, my family's love, like my parents' love, is all encompassing. Everything. They never shied away from me or ever. Well, I guess I never knew anything. I hid from them. And I remember being a little kid and keeping that secret and being so scared that if my family found out, they would get rid of me. But I kind of didn't believe it. You know what I mean? I'm 5 years old. I'm like, no way. But right at that exact timing, as I'm considering it, I find out that my dad, who's a hero in my eyes, has to go back to the United States for a triple bypass. My mom's going to go, and she's actually having a cancerous bit removed from her skin. Now I look back, I'm not sure what it was, but it didn't end up being anything too bad. Like it didn't affect her health in the future, like drastically. And so I got left on the island alone with a family, and I was there for about thinking that my parents potentially couldn't come back, like they had found out, and I was super sad time. I hated it. And eventually, my parents did come back, but because of that kind of like scare, it really froze in me. I'm not sharing this secret with anybody ever, 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 ever. And so I'm in the basement. This memory pops into my head. I'm like, what is this? Is this something else I have to deal with? What is going on here? And I'm like depressed about it. And but it turns out I had a therapy appointment the next day. So I go to my therapist. I'm sitting there. I'm not saying anything. She's asking how you doing. I'm like, I'm okay. She's like, what's up with you? And I'm like, nothing. She's like, no, what's up with you? And I and this was another moment like I had experienced before when I had to admit to her that I was drinking again. It was like I knew once the words came out of my mouth because I had never said anything about this for 30 years. I knew as soon as the words came out of my mouth, potentially she could see me different. Um, that I can't take back that information if I give it to her. But another gift of desperation and God's help, I said, so this happened to me when I was a little kid. And I explained the story like I explained it to you guys. And my therapist looked at me and she goes, that's it. And I go, what do you mean that's it? She goes, that's it. That's why your trauma is we're having such a hard time working on your trauma is because you've got this going on then there too. I'm like, no, I don't. Like I don't think about this a lot. This isn't going on a lot. Like I got shot. I this popped up maybe, but I'm just in here just openly discussing it. And she goes, no, trauma couples with trauma. It's like an interwoven like weave. So the problem with that, and one of the drawbacks to working on trauma, is if you pull this string a little bit and you get this one loose, but you can't get the rest of the knot out, you have to start undoing the other string. And that's the
Wow.
one that's the childhood memory that's holding that bit in place so a little bit more can come out. But then sometimes you have to go back and you have to start bouncing back and forth to like what's going on here. So my therapist and I really started working on almost separating. There's an adult Cameron and then there's a childhood Cameron. The pain that you're feeling right now as you're crying to me, does it feel like an adult crying to me right now or does it feel like a child? And it was like in my heart, in my chest, in my throat when you're a little kid and you just went up to your mom and you just admitted to her you did something wrong and you don't want her to not love you, like all this kinds of stuff. And like it was just like, and it felt very, very young, which I was like, huh. And right as all this was happening, there was almost like an explosion of energy. Like finally, I had gotten this fucking weight off my chest that
Right.
I didn't even realize was there. And I was like, oh my God, like this matters. Like this matters. Like it really does matter. And what was even crazy about like this matters is like I literally started apologizing. I was like, I'm so sorry for what I did. And my therapist is like, Cameron, you were 5 years old. Like, have you seen a 5 year old lately? I'm like, I don't know. And when you start to look back at 5 year olds, they're babies. They are babies. They can't even, they don't understand what guilt and shame even is. They don't have the capacity to handle it,
Yeah.
right? and it's just, so you deal with it in a 5-year old mindset. But the problem with that trauma is it gets saved with a 5-year old mentality, because
Okay.
that's where, and you might every now and then in your life pull it out, look at it, and with your adult mind rationalize it. Be like, that happened then. I am here now. I'm living my life. That can stay there. That's the adult mindset. It's very mature. This happened. You're a 5-year old. Us being police officers, like we know a 5-year old's not in trouble for anything. You know what I mean? For anything, really. It's like, where's the adult? That sort
Right.
of thing. And so like, but you save it as like the way you believed it when it did. You might pull it out, look at it as like, yeah, blah blah blah, and rationalize it, but there's still that little kind of heart in there hurting. You know what I mean? And so I told my therapist about this, and I decided right afterwards, since I had had the courage to speak it to her, I went to my parents, and it was one of the scariest things I had ever done. It was like, and I'm, what, 35 at the time, and I'm going to my parents feeling like a 5-year old. I pull in, you know, I had actually called to see if they were there, make sure they were both there. We were in the kitchen, and I just started crying and apologizing to them for what I had done as a 5-year old.
Well,
And literally felt like the little kid who just wants to be picked up by his parents. It was that deep and like that meaningful. And I'm sure it was strange to my parents because they're like, kids do things like that with one another. They're exploring. And I didn't really kind of explain to them the full extent to like what had happened. Mom, if you're hearing this for the first time, I'm sorry. The extent,
well, she
I
didn't need to
still
know
haven't.
the extended details. It wasn't going to benefit her in any
Exactly.
way.
And I wasn't
So
ready to share them. Yeah.
the details now are being shared to help somebody understand the depths of it, so they can relate to it somehow. They'd be like, "Man, I had something similar," or whatever.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes you need to hear someone who's been through it say something, because that's where you can find courage. Because when I went to my parents as a 5-year old, I didn't get what my 5-year old expected to be like picked up, hugged, loved, say I love you no matter what. I felt like I could fit in, what I mean, in their chest, like they could hold me in that moment, and it didn't really happen. And that was, so I'm like saying there's a 5-year old, and my parents are trying to figure out what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And basically I've decided I'm on this journey to just put everything on the line before I leave this earth. I mean, why not? Why leave it here? So I did all that, and then they were like, we normal kind of goodbye, which is odd. And then I got home and I told my wife about it, which was another really scary thing, because once I tell my wife I had done as a 5-year old, she might look at me different. Like she could. I don't know.
Yeah, she didn't.
I even thought she she could think that I was maybe homosexual, which is, I have no problem with homosexuals, but I don't want my wife losing faith in her husband's, you know what I mean? Like sexuality, if you will. So I'm apologizing to her, basically saying I'm not gay. This just happened to me when I was a little kid. Like this whole rush of emotions and truth is just spouting out of me, And the truth is,
There's no
without
handbook on this
doing,
one.
yeah, and like without that day happening and without the prayer the night before, I don't know if I would have made it.
Yeah.
Like I had to get that out of me in order to move any further. I had to pick that stone up and examine what it really was compared to what I had labeled it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
So I had to kind of like set aside what a therapist might think of me, set aside what my family might think of me, set aside what my wife might think of me, and continue this walking in like truth, walking in faith. And that really projected me into all the years leading up to right now. Because once you're walking in faith, and less worried about, well, what if this person sees me? What if that person sees me? What if this person thinks? And you get your ego out of there because your
Yeah.
ego is hurting you. And I started doing the work. I really started working with a sponsor at going to meetings, being really accountable. I'm going to
Good.
therapy. I don't have any more secrets now. That's the best thing. Once I got that out of me, I didn't have any more secrets. It's so freeing to not have a dark secret. And especially since it really wasn't a dark secret.
Yeah.
It was something where a predator attacked a child. That child was manipulated. I was manipulated. And then we ended up in the place that we were.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to that boy.
I don't
And
know, but
I
it
carried guilt because I didn't tell anyone. And
yeah.
that means he was being abused.
And then, well, yeah, he was continually abused in your mind in a way, spiritually, never healed. So it felt like it was not ongoing. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this real quick. Remember the remember the stepdad that was abusing his kids on the laptop?
That really hit me. That
I bet.
really hit me.
I was
And
that's what I was asking. Did it bring
that's why I
something
went
out?
so hard.
You
Yeah.
did.
It did.
You were like, I wish I wasn't wearing a badge right now. I want to kick this guy's butt. Type of feelings.
Yeah, we ended up chasing him all the way up to Chicago, right? We got a warrant out on him. He went up to Chicago. He got picked up there,
Yeah.
put on a plane, and sent back. And that individual had been abusing uh, a young girl. Um,
Was it too young?
and
Was it
yeah, and he was using the same kind of story. This is an adult game. This means love. This is, all that kind of stuff. And what he had done, which is despicable, is recorded it on his laptop. And it was like a Sunday. Sundays in law enforcement are either going to be totally quiet or there's going to be something big that happens, right? And
yeah.
it was like 3 in the afternoon, and this lady walks in and she says, "My daughter just told me that my boyfriend's been abusing her." I'm like, "Holy smokes." And we pulled her right in. We're like, "All right, where's he at?"
Yeah.
You know,
Let's start building this case with the first brick by first brick.
yeah,
And we got to build this foundation. Good. I remember telling you that one too.
yep, yep.
Good.
And we did. We did.
Well,
We found out
the
exactly
first
what.
because some of the first reactions were like some people were like, we got to get warrants. Some people were like, we got to go up there and grab him right now. And all these different things.
We were like, we need to get that computer. We need to get that computer before he throws it off a bridge into the Mississippi or something like that, right?
Yep.
So yeah, we were able to get in the house. He was using marijuana in the living room when it wasn't legal, and so we were able to grab him on that. And then while we were in there, the computer, which
We were
belonged
there
to,
for keep the peace.
yes, yeah,
The mom was going to leave this guy and grab up all her stuff that she could to get out of there. So we were there for the keep the peace, and it was her computer that she
yeah,
gave us, and we kept
and
it for
he's
safekeeping till warrants could
yeah,
be applied to go looking into that computer.
and he's smoking weed in the living room when we walk in. I mean, that was
And
just
that just made
beautiful.
it that's easy for us.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we did. That really did. I remember that. I cried about that. I talked to Kate about that, but I wasn't able to tell her why it meant so much. I wasn't able to
Yeah.
tell you why it meant so much, but to me, that was a big one.
Well,
Uh,
we all have soft spots in our hearts for kids being in danger or being hurt, no matter what's
yeah,
happened to us. Because
yeah,
something happened to you, it got amped up just a touch more. But it's not
yeah.
like it was a sign that I should have picked up on. I knew something had to have happened in your past. I was just
No,
curious when you told me the story just now. I go, man, I wonder if that resonated when that happened. We picked that one guy up.
it kind of came up and it was like, this is a chance for me to get the bad guy in a
Yeah.
scenario that parallels not only my story, but many, many stories of children,
Yep.
and we don't talk about these things because it is seen as just the worst thing, even for the person who's been the victim. Like, it's awful. You never get it. You can't get it back.
Yeah.
You can come to peace with it and you can help others like we're doing. Okay. So
Stay positive.
long story short,
Got to stay positive.
gotta stay
Control what you
positive.
can control. Control how you can react to things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's not sometimes easier said than done too.
And obviously, this episode is a little kind of deeper, But the reason I'm sharing my story, and this is like the first time I've shared it publicly, and this is going to be very public, besides, like, this is the first time you've heard this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how personal it is. No one knows about this except for my little sister doesn't even know about this. I'm going to have to tell her before this comes out. Yeah. And all the
Wait,
complications that
wait and see
came
if
from
she
that.
actually watches it. You'd be like, "Did you watch that? The third episode?" She's like, "Yeah." You go, "What'd you think?" She goes, "Oh, it was great." You'd be like, "You didn't watch it.
Yeah. Bullshit.
You didn't watch it. I got you."
Yeah. And really, really quick, like I wanted to open this up to the idea that, like, you're not alone if you've been through an experience like that. I believe that by me sharing the story, it's going to help others and it's helping to heal me. So thank you to whoever's listening. Thank you, Dennis, for listening to my story.
You got it.
uh,
Sorry that happened to you, man. I mean, I'm glad you
and so
found peace with it. I'm glad you're able to deal with it, and I'm proud of I'm proud of you for being able to share it. Because you're
I
right.
was just always,
If it helps somebody, it's going to be worth the pain and the embarrassment of re bringing it up, or all the feelings that you had. You probably had 100 different feelings, and I only mentioned two. I apologize. I know you had a lot of more feelings than those, but
no,
that's a big step, man. I mean, and good for you for doing it. And I hope that helps
you
you and
know what
helps
it
them.
is you worry that people, if they find out that something like that happened, whether you were guilty, innocent, absolutely innocent most of the time. If you're a child, you're 100% innocent. Okay,
Yeah.
like 100% innocent, like 100% innocent. I had to like bang that into my head. Like it's like no, like I was 4 or 5 years old. I don't know what's going on, but for those who are struggling with that kind of stuff, it's not your fault. And I know this episode's been a little bit deeper, but if it helps someone out there to know that someone else went through it, please, please help yourself. Please attend to the secret rather than choosing not to share it because you're worried that people hearing it may not see you the same way. If they don't see you the same way, they were never really in your corner. Okay? A good friend picks you up when you fall and celebrates good in your life. Not
Yep.
compares it to theirs or tries to put another, "Oh, well, wait till you hear about my story." It's you listen, you congratulate the person, you pump them up, and you actually get pumped from doing that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you were saying, it's helping the kid, like who falls over, like whatever it may be. But if you have a story out there, not only does it not define you, but it can also turn into something powerful for you to help somebody else. Okay. To all of you out there who can relate to the story that was shared today or any of the previous episodes, please send us your stories on how you got stuck in Shit Creek, how you got out of Shit Creek, more importantly, and how what tools you used can help other individuals who are suffering right now. Now, for anyone struggling with questions regarding past trauma or PTSD, I've created www.ptsdsupport.org so others can learn from my and others' experiences. You can check the podcast out at www.shitcreeksurvivors.com. And you can also send us your stories to shitcreekpodcast@gmail.com. Did
There
I
you
just say
go.
come? I
You
said
said
come
.com.
at the end. No,
No,
I
you said
said come.
.com. You said .com. You didn't say.
To any people who are suffering out there or have stories that you believe would empower other individuals going through it right now, please send us your stories at shitcreekpodcast@gmail.com. Check us out at www.shitcreeksurvivors.com. And for anyone struggling with questions regarding trauma or PTSD, I created www.ptsdsupport.com so other individuals out there can have some support. Dennis, thank you for being here today. That was a tough story for me to get off my chest. I wouldn't have
I
been able
bet.
to do it without you. And
Well, thank you for
and
sharing it. Thank you for letting me be a part of it, to hear you
yeah,
talk about it.
well, the one thing I have is that this reaches an individual or individuals who are suffering, and that it gives them a sense of freedom and a sense that
Of
There
hope.
is a way to
A
move
light at the end of
on.
the tunnel. Yes. A hope.
Yeah,
Hope keeps
and
us
then you're
alive.
gonna exactly, and then you're gonna turn back around, and you're gonna see someone else struggling in that same place, and you're gonna pull them back up. Okay,
Yep.
you are
That's how you pay
very
it forward.
powerful. Yeah, paying it forward. So thank you, everybody. I love you, Dennis. Thank you again.
Love you too, brother. Have a good week.
You too.